Yeah. Welcome everybody to the Breast Cancer Resource Center and Rooted Santa Barbara session today. And I would like to just kind of go through a little bit of housekeeping. If everybody can put their sound on mute and also their video on off. That would be appreciated because we're going to record this and then we're going to make this available again later. So if anybody misses it, we're going to be able to post this on our BCRC YouTube and or our blog. My name is Silvana Kelly, and I'm the Executive Director at the Breast Cancer Resource Center. And I'm happy to present this session in coordination with Rooted Santa Barbara. And we're happy to have here today Chris Kallenlynch. And so I apologize if I didn't say that correctly, Chris. Chris is one of the founding mothers of Rooted Santa Barbara, and she's going to present today one pan, one formula, many meals. Chris is an educator by training and has many certifications. One of them, or a couple of them, being a clinician chef coaching certificate. She also is a licensed Food for Life instructor, a Healthy World Vitality Plan coach, and a vegan lifestyle coach and educator. We're happy to have her here with us and presenting the session today. What I'd like to ask for everyone is if you could please keep your questions until the end of the session. We will have a question and answer period. So at this point now, again, welcome. Thank you for joining us, and I'd like to hand it over to Chris.
Hello, everyone. Yes, my name is Chris Kallenlynch, and I'm very excited to be here with you today. And I want to start off with a little bit of a presentation, and then we'll jump into the cooking demonstration. So I'm going to share my screen with you all. All right. Yes, the topic for today is one pan plus one formula equals many meals. And before we delve into that hot topic, just a quick disclaimer. We just want to make sure that you understand that the presentation, the cooking demonstration presented today is for education purposes only, maybe a little entertainment going on there, but it's not to take place of your healthcare provider's advice and guidance. Also, I just want to let you know how excited and honored I am to be a part of this class, part of this monthly educational series that is being brought to you through the partnership of the Breast Cancer Resource Center of Santa Barbara and Rooted Santa Barbara. So a special thank you to them. And so let's jump in. Here is this glorious pan. Here's our one pan, and it is filled with these glorious colors. And we're going to focus on the one pan, meaning a stir fry meal. And you may have ordered stir fry in a restaurant before, favorite Chinese place, Thai place, or you may have on occasion made a stir fry meal in your own kitchen. But I want to tell you why you might want to be adding this more to your menu planning regimen, because there's many benefits to the homemade stir fry. And let me kind of just show you what those are, in my opinion. It's an easy way to prepare a balanced meal. And by that meaning, you're going to have some wonderful vegetables. These beautiful, colorful vegetables that you see here are talking to you, hopefully. Vegetables are a wonderful source of fiber for sure, but they also are packed with micronutrients such as vitamins and minerals and phytonutrients and antioxidants. So they're wonderful to get into our meals. And then they are a good source of carbohydrate, and that's the kind of number one fuel that our body functions on. So it's a great source of energy. And then of course, protein that our body needs also for energy, but also to maintain and build muscle. So when we combine all these together, not only do we get a balanced meal, but it's a very filling meal as well and promotes satiety. And so I love the stir fry meal for this reason. but there's also others. Mainly in the sense of when you go to a restaurant or you buy maybe a stir fry meal from off the grocery shelf or it's pre-made for you, you can't necessarily manage the sodium content. And a lot of those stir fry meals have very extremely high in sodium. And so I'm going to be showing you through the cooking demonstration how we are going to manage that and make it more healthy. And we also avoid refined carbohydrates when we are preparing this at home. And I'm going to give you some options of how you can serve this stir fry. Oops. There we go. You also, because you're cooking this in your own home, you're going to be able to personalize the flavor and texture. Again, you're not at the mercy of the chef back in the kitchen of your restaurant, and they dictate what shows up on your plate. You're going to be able to personalize it. And also, you are going to help avoid food waste. And let me explain what I mean by this. I love having a stir fry at the end of my work week. And the reason for this is I usually do my grocery shopping on the weekend. And so I'm using up all my wonderful fresh veggies that are in my fridge. But as it comes towards the end of the week, there's some maybe not so happy looking vegetables in my bins or on my shelves. And so you may not want to serve those vegetables maybe fresh in a salad, but they make wonderful options for a stir fry. So you're not throwing them away in your garbage and going to the landfill. And it's more economical because you're using everything that you've purchased at the grocery store. And I am going to show you ways that it can actually a stir fry meal and the formula can simplify meal planning and promote meal prepping. So before we get started, I want to try to describe to you for cooking sake purposes, types of vegetables. I've divided them into two categories: high moisture vegetables and low moisture vegetables. And by this meaning, high moisture vegetables, they're not too hard. So think of a vegetable, when you pick it up, you can kind of squeeze it a little bit. The skin has a little bit of give, like a zucchini, let's say. So it's not too hard. And when you're cooking it, you may have to add a little bit of moisture at the beginning, a little bit of water or vegetable broth, but they start self-releasing their own moisture because they're very hydrated. And so extra liquid is not typically always required when cooking these type of vegetables, and they tend to cook more quickly because they are softer in nature. So for some examples, zucchini, mushrooms, sweet peppers, spinach. Now mushrooms, I understand technically they're not a vegetable, they're fungi, but for the sake of the culinary word, we often treat them as a vegetable. And in a stir fry, these are some examples of high moisture vegetables you might want to choose to put in your stir fry. Now, when it comes to low moisture vegetables, these are the dense vegetables, and they typically require some additional liquid. They don't self-release. They may have some moisture, but much less than the high moisture vegetables. And for that reason, they typically require a longer cooking time. So let's think of some examples, if you haven't already. Root vegetables like carrots or potatoes, cabbage, and green beans. These are all wonderful choices to put in a stir fry. But why I'm talking about them here is because of a stir fry, the way it cooks so quickly, I want to give you a quick tip, a pointer. And this is the stir fry formula sheet that we can provide to everyone as a PDF if you would like. But here I give you a little clue, and this is a tip that you want to chop. When we chop our vegetables for this particular dish, I want you to try as best you can to make them about a ½ inch, maybe no more than an inch in the pieces, the chop. And this means that things will cook more uniformly. We still want some chew in our stir fry, so those dense vegetables will have some nice crunch mouthfeel for us. The softer vegetables will get soft but not mushy. So just pay attention to that you want to uniformly chop these vegetables. So at this point, we're going to get cooking. I'm going to move us to the, stop sharing my screen and move us to the demo area. And here's the focus, this glorious, glorious food. And you can see here that I have my workstation. And what I'm going to do with the stir fry style formula is show you that we want to have everything kind of in its place, ready to go, because I will start cooking, and this recipe, the meal cooks so quickly that you don't want to be chopping and dicing while you're trying to prepare one of the sauces, because things could start burning in your pan if you're trying to do multitasking. So this is one of those recipes that I really like to come into play with meal prepping. And let me show you what I mean by that. Is yesterday, in preparation for this cooking demo class, I chopped and diced everything uniformly, about the same size, ½ inch or inch or so, these pieces, in preparation for you. But this is also something that I could do on the weekend, and have everything chopped and diced for making salads and that kind of thing. And then as I got towards the end of my week, I could use it in the stir fry. So it's shortening my work time in the kitchen. All right, so, and let me just clear something off my camera there. Okay, all right, so I'm going to start with sauce number 1. I'm going to give you 2 sauces that you can choose from. And the first sauce I would like to say is a lighter type seasoning sauce. It's going to have some fresh qualities of a citrus note to it. And I really like it as we move into warmer weather. And so right away, I'm going to let you know, talk about one of the ways we can manage our sodium content on our own. We are going to use something like a soy sauce. That's very traditional in a stir fry. And what I would recommend that you look for are things that say, because you're not going to be able to find necessarily low sodium, but you can find less sodium soy sauce, which will be less sodium than traditional soy sauce. You can use something like 50% less sodium tamari, or you can even grab, which is even much less sodium, is something like coconut aminos. What all 3 of these do for you in this dish is give us some saltiness, which our taste buds like, but it also is giving us this umami, savory flavor that we enjoy. So seasoning sauce number 1 is a 1/4 cup of less sodium soy sauce, or I'm actually using tamari today. So I'm using that 50% less sodium tamari, and I'm putting it inside a bowl. So a 1/4 cup. I'm going to add a 1/4 cup of water. Because we need some extra liquid to give us a nice sauce for our stir fry. And some more liquid we're going to add is an orange, some orange juice. And I freshly squeezed a large orange and took about a 1/4 cup from an orange. All you'll need is an orange about this size, and you'll get plenty of orange juice. And so I am putting in a 1/4 cup of freshly squeezed orange juice, but you could use it from concentrate or a prepared bottle of orange juice, whatever's most convenient for you. And then we're going for some rice vinegar. All right. The reason why we're using rice vinegar, you could use really any white vinegar you would like, but I really like rice vinegar in a variety of dishes, but for stir fries especially, it has that sour acidity note that we like, but it's slightly sweeter. It's slightly more mild. And so I am going to be using rice vinegar and using 2 tablespoons of rice vinegar. But if you didn't have that on hand, you could use some white wine vinegar or white vinegar. Now, we are going to add in a tablespoon of cornstarch. This is going to be a thickening agent for our sauce because we want the sauce to kind of grab hold of those wonderful, glorious vegetables once we start cooking them. And so I'm putting in 1 tablespoon of cornstarch. If you didn't have cornstarch, you could also use something like arrowroot powder, tapioca powder, or flour, potato flour, but you'll probably need to use 2 tablespoons. Cornstarch tends to thicken, have a easier thickening quality to it. So you kind of need to double if you're using some other sort of thickener. So 1 tablespoon of cornstarch is in here. And then I'm going to add that spice, the wonderful ginger. If you want to use fresh ginger, I'm using 2 teaspoons of minced ginger. And Ginger root looks like this, if you aren't aware. Found at all grocery stores. And to get 2 teaspoons, it's really maybe about an inch worth of that ginger root. So you don't need very much for this particular recipe. If you don't have fresh ginger, that's okay, all right? Don't run out to the grocery store. You can get the same kind of similar taste by using ground ginger, and that would be a ½ teaspoon of ginger. So 2 teaspoons of minced fresh ginger or a ½ teaspoon of ground. And since I have ground, I'm going to use that. And then I'm going to just whisk this in the bowl to kind of get it all incorporated. And then I'm going to set it aside. And I'm going to prepare seasoning sauce number 2 for you, because right away, you're going to be able to, with this formula, prepare 2 different types of stir-fry vegetables just by the nature of changing the sauce, which changes the flavor. All right. So for our next sauce, there'll be some similar ingredients, but some different. What we're going to start out with that's very different, is we're going to add a 1/4 cup of peanut butter or other nut or seed butter of your choice. What I recommend if you are using a nut butter or seed butter is always check the packaging, check the back, and make sure it doesn't have anything else added. You don't need added palm oil or sugar or salt. You want to manage those things, your fat, salt, and sugar intake yourself, and you don't need it. So become a good food label reader and make sure all you're getting, if I want peanut butter, I'm just getting these peanuts. All right, so I put a 1/4 cup of peanut butter in my bowl. And what this is going to do is act as a natural thickener for the sauce once it starts bubbling in my pan. It's going to give us a wonderful creamy mouthfeel that we often enjoy. So this is a more dense, thicker, rich type of stir-fry sauce as an option for you. We are going to add again a 1/4 cup of less sodium soy sauce, tamari, or coconut aminos, whatever you would like to use. I'm using again a 1/4 cup of my less sodium tamari to get that umami savory flavor. And I'm also going to be adding 2 tablespoons of that rice vinegar that we already used in the previous recipe. So I have these items already on my pantry shelf that I can use. We don't need as much liquid. We're going to add 2 tablespoons of water. And again, 2 teaspoons of that minced ginger. And then for a different citrus note, we are going to be adding in some lime juice. And I'm adding 2 tablespoons of freshly squeezed lime juice. And a lime, just your typical size lime, will provide you with 2 tablespoons of lime juice. And here you can whisk, or you can kind of start stirring. And don't be too worried. You're not going to be able to get the peanut butter to really smooth, get incorporated into this liquid. What's going to happen is when we introduce it into the pan is the peanut butter will start slowly melting, and then it will stir in with all the other vegetables. So these are the 2 seasoning sauces that you can choose from in this formula recipe. So now I'm actually going to move to the stir fry and create that for you. Now, with the stir fry formula, I've already created the 2 seasoning sauces, so they're ready to go. I've talked about how you'll want to have everything prepared and chopped ahead of time, because the first 3 ingredients that we're going to introduce into this pan are only going to cook for 3 minutes. So you need to, and then we'll add some additional ingredients. So you can't be chopping and dicing while you're having this cook, because you kind of need to be stirring it constantly because it's going to cook at a rather high heat, at medium high. So I'm going to start my induction cooktop right now. I'm going to take up the heat to medium high, and I am going to talk about the first ingredient. So the standard ingredient for item number 1 in the formula is a half cup of chopped onions. Now, these onions, they could be any type of onion. I decided to use some scallions, some sliced green onions. This is about a half cup, will be about 2 or 3 of those green onions. But you could change the flavor and the look by using purple onion. You could use something like a shallot for a lighter, milder flavor, a typical white onion, but all you need is a half a cup, so not a whole lot. And so I am going to put a half a cup of my green onions into the pan. And right away, I'm also going to be adding a quarter cup of water. And you'll notice I'm not using oil. I am going to be using water. And I'm going to turn so you can kind of see my pan here. It's starting to steam up on my side. Instead of using oil, add a tablespoon. If you add, for every tablespoon of oil you add to your food, you're introducing 120 calories. And it doesn't have a lot of nutritional value in that oil. It's a highly processed food. So I tend to prefer, when I'm doing my stir fry, I just use water. It's cheap, it's free, out of my tap. And all it's doing is helping to cook the vegetables for me. I'm going to introduce flavor through the sauce. So the next ingredients are, I need to add 3 cups of whatever vegetables I want. And so I have a whole slew of different vegetables here. I'm going to add, I know this is a half cup of celery. So I've chopped my celery. I'm going to add a half cup of celery. I am going to use a half cup of carrots. I am going to use a half cup of red bell peppers. And I'm going to use a half cup of red cabbage. And then that's got me up to 2 cups, according to the formula. A half cup of onions is one of the ingredients. I need 3 cups of other chopped vegetables. I'm now up to 2 cups. And I love broccoli so much, and I'll tell you why in just a moment. I'm going to add twice the amount. So I'm going to add a full cup of broccoli. I'm going to toss in a couple more just for good measure. So this vibrant color symphony I have going on here is speaking to me visually. It looks healthy, but it also looks beautiful. But why I love introducing more broccoli is the broccoli, the little broccoli heads. When you start introducing that seasoning sauce, it absorbs into these heads so that when you eat every bite of broccoli in the stir fry, you get this wonderful pop of luscious flavor. So every stir fry for me, if I can do it, if I can make it work, will have broccoli in it. So I am constantly stirring my vegetables, and I will do this for, I would say about 3 minutes. And if you notice here, what the water is starting to evaporate. Remember, I introduced a quarter cup of water at the beginning. I always like to have, this used to be like an olive oil container. I swapped it out and made it a water container. So it's beautiful by my stove. And whenever I need to add a little shot more of hydration of water, so nothing burns or scorches, I just keep it by my stovetop and add it right in there like that. All right, so now I'm ready for the next step. The first step was making my seasoning sauce. The second step was to add these vegetables in here with water and have them cook for about 3 minutes. I'm now gonna just turn down my stove top here and go to the next step, which is adding some chopped leafy greens, all right? Whenever you can, try to incorporate leafy greens into a meal at least once a day. Leafy greens, they're so full of wonderful dense nutrients, nutrient dense, but calorically light. And so we will add 2 cups of dark leafy greens. It could be a mixture, it could be all spinach. This is a mixture of chard and spinach. And it cooks rather quickly. It's a high moisture vegetable. We want to keep that vibrant color. So that's why I'm introducing it after the other vegetables have somewhat cooked. And along with the dark leafy greens, I'm going to add a cup of some other type of protein source like peas or edamame, baby lima beans or tofu. It's a cup's worth, and I'm using peas today. And now I am going to stir this, give it a quick stir. And just a little quick note, when you're measuring, when it calls for 2 cups of leafy greens, you don't have to, you can get out a cup, measuring cup, and pack it in there. I suggest pack as much as you can because they reduce down quite a bit. But really a big handful of leafy greens is a cup's worth. So just a quick tip there. Now I'm going to introduce also my seasoning sauce. And I'm going to add my seasoning sauce number 1. So this is the one that has the fresh orange juice and the corn starch for thickener. And I'm going to add that in there. And I'm going to turn up the heat a bit until I start seeing it bubble. And you're probably wondering, well, what will she do? What will Chris do with seasoning sauce number 2? Well, I did this demo a few weeks ago for another group, and I really like a lot of sauce in my stir fry because I'm going to use it to cover maybe brown rice or some other type of base. And so I love having sauce. And so I decided, well, I don't want the seasoning sauce number 2 to go to waste. So you know what? I'm going to get creative, and I wanted to see what both sauces together tasted like. I had never tried it before. So I'm actually going to do that again today. If you love extra sauce, you could either double seasoning sauce number 1 or double seasoning sauce number 2, or mix them like I'm doing here. But I wanted to be able to show you that as it comes up to temperature, it starts to boil, that the peanut butter will melt and it will help thicken, and the cornstarch will also help thicken. And while that's kind of cooking away and coming up to a bubble, and then what I'll do is once it does that, I'll lower my heat. But I want to show you how you can plate this particular dish. So I'm going to clean up my workspace here. And hopefully, if you can see it there at home or from your workplace, it is bubbling away. So I'm going to go ahead, and it started to thicken. So I'm going to go ahead and slow this down. And another thing you'll notice, I have leftovers of stuff I've chopped, right? And that becomes part of saving me down the road, preparing other meals. I can use these other vegetables that I've pre-chopped. I can use them throughout the rest of my week. And I encourage you to do that. It saves you time. I can use these vegetables. I can add them to salads or add them to soups. I can do all sorts of things and add more nutrition and flavor to whatever meal that they are introduced to. All right, I'm going to switch this over a little bit more centered on my workstation. So what I'm going to show you here is how you can beautifully serve this stir fry. I'm also going to show you, and it's probably maybe kind of difficult to tell. I actually have two different grains here. I'm going for a complex carbohydrate base for this meal. This is typical brown rice. And this is something maybe you have never thought of serving a stir fry on. Let's change things up. Let's get creative. Let's use what maybe we have in our pantry. I love oat groats. This is what oatmeal is made from. I like the whole intact form of oat groats. It's slightly nutty, slightly sweet. And so I've actually combined them both because I batch cooked my brown rice and my oatmeal for the week. So I was able to take this and put it on the plate because I batch cooked those two grains already to use in other recipes also. And I am going to take some of my stir fry and plate this. And you want to make sure you get some luscious, that extra sauce is going to get absorbed by my wonderful grains. And then this is a super nutritious, very filling, wonderful, like plate of stir fry lusciousness right there in front of you. But you can always power things up, meaning you can always add a little bit extra to it if you want in regards to nutrition, using different ingredients, adding nutrition as well as flavor. So I had some leftover, it sounds funny that to serve this maybe with a stir fry, but I had some leftover crushed pistachio, they're unsalted. And so I thought, well, I could throw some healthy fats on there with my pistachios, or I could use some black sesame seed to make it look super fancy if you're having company. And then I encourage you, have a little bit of citrus on the side with a stir fry. This lime, just freshly squeezed over this, will add a brightness to the dish. And so you could have a squeeze of lime or a little squeeze of orange or a squeeze of lemon. But since this is I have lime and orange going on here, I thought I'll use up some more lime. And voila, you have your complete stir fry meal. And another thing, a little tip to help with really being mindful of eating, I encourage you to maybe try to slow down. And you want to chew your food for sure, but mindful eating, to get us to slow down, sometimes we need a mechanism to force us to do that. So you could either eat with your non-dominant hand, try that, that's kind of fun. Or one Christmas, I got for all of our family members some chopsticks because I am not very adept at using chopsticks. And so this actually slows me down and makes me look at what I'm eating and really appreciate the beauty that's on my plate. So I encourage you to do that. So I'm going to switch over just a moment and finish sharing a few slides. Now that we're done with the cooking demonstration part, I just want to finish by sharing a couple more things with you. So we've talked about the benefits of the stir fry meal. I just want to highlight for you the benefits of the stir fry style formula in the sense that it's an easy way to prepare a balanced meal. Not much thought is required. If you have this template in front of you and it's part of your recipe list, you have it somewhere for safekeeping, you can pull it out at the end of the week when you have a busy night or you want to use up some of those leftover sad vegetables. All you need to do is follow the formula. There's not much time required. You saw how I was able to whip together something really quickly when I used that kind of meal prepping also as well. But really, I will tell you, yesterday, it took me, I don't know, maybe 15 minutes to chop my vegetables. And so there's not much time to prepare this right from the get-go. Just have everything in its place, that mise en place, everything ready to go before you heat up the fire in your pan. And you can change the taste and texture based on your personal preference. You saw I love broccoli. I'm going to use lots of broccoli. Maybe you don't like broccoli. You can leave that out and introduce vegetables that you really enjoy. And you can be creative in the kitchen. This formula, these sauces, recipes are guides. They are meant to be broken. They're meant to be inspiration. So if there's something you would like to change up or add more of, feel free to do that. And you can change the taste and texture based on the seasons. And let me just real quickly show you what I mean, because we are going to be able to create many meals from this formula recipe by the nature of the vegetables we choose. If we mix up the sauces or combine them, we use different grains on the bottom. Well, let's explore as we move through the seasons. In winter vegetables, you could easily incorporate kale and Brussels sprouts into your stir fry. In the spring, maybe asparagus, it's coming, it's kind of on sale right now. You could put asparagus and peas. Summer vegetables, you maybe have some sweet bell peppers that you love, but add some spices, to your life and into your kitchen and into your pan. Add some hot chili peppers during the summertime, or don't be afraid to add corn or very atypical ingredients for your stir fry. And fall vegetables will wrap around where we'll start getting more heartier, maybe sweet potatoes and pumpkins going on, lots of zucchini that are harvested in the fall. So in closing, one of the things I always teach at every cooking class that I do is this concept of three things: powering up, changing it up, and serving it up. So when you are preparing any sort of meal, whether it's a stir fry or something else in your kitchen, breakfast, lunch, or dinner, what can you do to add more wholesome plant-based foods onto that plate? It not only boosts nutrition to help you improve your health, but it enhances flavor. How do you change it up? Hey, use what you have in your pantry. Spring clean that fridge, freezer, your pantry shelves, and make things based upon what you have on hand so that you don't throw away money and have to get rid of it. And base it on your personal preference. And then serve it up. Think of different ways to serve your recipes up throughout the week. For instance, if you make a big batch of the stir fry meal, for sure, if you're a household of one or a small household, freeze some of it and use it as lunch leftovers for another week. But another way to do it is serve this stir fry up in different ways. It doesn't have to just be in a bowl or on a plate with brown rice. It can be served with different types of noodles, whole grain noodles or rice, but also don't be afraid to put the stir fry in a whole grain bun or put it in a wrap of some sort and make it portable. You can also eat it cool or cold. It's delicious cool as well. So serving things up differently allows you to have more diversity in your meal planning and your meal serving. So in closing, I just, on behalf of Breast Cancer Resource Center of Santa Barbara and rooted Santa Barbara County, I just appreciate your attendance here, and we all wish you joy in the kitchen, and we are here to support you in your health endeavors. So I will stop sharing my screen, and if you want to stop the recording at this time, and then we can answer questions if people have questions for me.
Okay, I'm going to, Chris, can you hear me?
I can.
Okay, great. I'm trying to find my stop recording.